Hey there, it's Kalyn with another Paper Smooches card tutorial. Today I'm making a wedding card and I'm going to be using some gold metallic cardstock and also some nice vellum, and I think these two elements are going to add just a touch of class and a little bit of elegance to this card. So I'm using the hubby and wifey stamp set, and then I'm also going to be using the congratulations die with this. So just taking that cake image from the stamp set, and I'm going to stamp that down on a piece of cream cardstock using walnut stain distress ink from Tim Holtz. So now that my image is stamped, I'm just going to fussy cut it out using my scissors. And dies aren't available yet for the hubby and wifey stamp set, but I know Kim, and I know she is constantly trying to release new dies to go with old stamp sets. So I'm sure this will be coming eventually, but for right now you just have to do a little bit of fussy cutting. But luckily this is a really easy image. It's an easy shape to cut out, so it's really not that problem and didn't take that long. So now I'm just taking a couple of Copic markers in some light teal colors, and I'm just going to add a little bit of color to the kind of like the borders on the cake layers. I guess this would be like where you would have ribbon or just some colored icing. So I thought it would be nice to just add a little touch of teal to this area. So now I'm going to do some heat embossing on this vellum, and I'm going to be using a couple of the small flowers and then the largest flower in the hubby and wifey stamp set, and I'm going to be stamping that on my vellum using some Versamark ink, and that's going to just have a nice priming surface for our embossing powder. So I'm just going to be stamping those flowers down in kind of a random arrangement, just where I think they will look good. And then I'm going to sprinkle my embossing powder over top and heat set it. And I know this is a little bit hard to see because I'm basically stamping a clear ink on top of a clear piece of paper, so you can see it slightly, but it's still a little tricky. And I just put a piece of scrap paper underneath the vellum I'm stamping on because I was stamping off the edge, and I really like to stamp off the edge of papers when I'm kind of making my own little pattern, and when you want it to look random, stamping off the edge really helps give it that kind of flowy and just random look. So now that I'm all done my stamping, I'm just going to take some white embossing powder and sprinkle that over the top, and you'll see that it sticks right to wherever you put that clear Versamark ink. So this works really well, such an easy technique, and it just makes it look so pretty and elegant, almost like it's kind of a piece of lace. So I just really like this technique for wedding cards or cards that you want to be extra elegant. And so before I'm heat setting it, I'm taking a little paintbrush, just a dry paintbrush, and it helps just to get that little extra embossing powder that you don't want on there if it's like stuck to the paper or stuck near your stamped image and you don't want to ruin it. I just use a little paintbrush to get rid of it. So now I'm just taking my heat tool gun and just melting that embossing powder down, and it just turns to be an even brighter, more vivid white, and it'll have that nice raised and shiny look that heat embossing gives. So now that I'm all done heat embossing, I'm deciding where my cake is going to sit on the card, and then I'm going to stamp the little cake stand image using the same walnut stain ink that I stamped the cake in. So just going to stamp that directly down on my card front. So now that I have that cake stand stamped down, I'm placing the vellum over top of it and placing the cake on top of it just to see how that's going to look. But I decided that I didn't really love the way that looked. You couldn't really see the cake enough through there, at least not how I wanted it to look. So I decided that I wanted to create kind of a little peek through. So I traced around the stamped and cut out cake, and then also drew some lines around the cake stand, and then just decided to again kind of fussy cut out a little window there. That way you would be able to see both the cake and the cake stand but still have all that vellum around there. So I'm just cutting a little notch in the middle and going to fussy cut out that window. So now that that little shape is cut out, I'm just erasing any leftover pencil marks and then placing it to see and make sure that it's fitting around my cake stand and that everything is going to look okay. So I like the way that that looks. It just frames the image nicely and doesn't compete with it. So then I decided to cut out the congratulations die and cut that out of the gold metallic cardstock, which I absolutely love. I've been holding on to it for so long and not using it, so I'm finally just biting the bullet and using it, and I just love the way it looks. So I just die cut that out really easily, and it cuts out in a few different pieces, and I'm just going to punch out the little centers of some of the letters and then arrange it how I want it on the bottom of my card. So now I'm just going to add one of these crema flowers to the top of my cake. So now that I have all the elements of my card placed where I know I'm going to want them, I'm going to start adhering everything down. So just taking my Tombow Mono multi-glue and adhering down the stamped cake piece, and then I'm taking my vellum piece. And while this can be a little bit tricky to adhere down to your card, since we have all of those embossed flowers on it, we can take glue dots and put them behind those embossed flowers. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to go around the card, and since the vellum gets slightly warped when you heat emboss it, you're going to want to place as many glue dots down as you can just so that it has a nice flat appearance to it. And this did work out pretty well. It wasn't so warped that it was going to look bad. So I just stuck glue dots under every flower that I could around the edge, and so it just laid nice and flat, but you still couldn't see any of the adhesive. And now that that's all done, I'm just going to take my Tombow adhesive again and just adhere down the die cut out congratulations sentiment. So now that my sentiment is all adhered down, I'm just going to take one of these Xyron adhesive dots and adhere down the flower to the top of my cake. And that's going to finish off today's card. So I hope that you enjoyed this and that it maybe gave you an idea for some techniques you can use on your next wedding card. And be sure to check out Paper Smooches for the stamps and the dies that I used on this project. All the links will be below this video in the description box. And also subscribe to my channel if you want to catch my latest crafty videos. Thanks so much.